Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. We are working on another project from the Autumn Advent Calendar. It is a little project that looks something like this. Now, I sold out of the Advent calendars, and your Advent calendars have the tall, skinny one, which I prefer. I'm going to start stocking these little frames in the Ribbon Candy Hooking store in a few weeks. But yours is a rectangle. I'm going to have to adopt mine. You can see I'm wearing a past one that I made that maybe you've seen me wear on coffee time. It's like a little miniature embroidery hoop, right, that has a little piece of monk's cloth inside of it, and I've hooked this piece. This is like an abstract piece that I've done, but in your set, you have this little set of pictures, just little drawings that I did as inspiration, and this is the size of your frames. And the idea is that you are going to hook a tiny piece and put it inside one of these mini embroidery frames. You could use it as an ornament, as a necklace, like I do, any number of things, right? So what we need for this project, you've got these two materials that came in the Advent calendar, this velvety chenille that's multicolored, and this sparkle wool. And you have your cue sheet. If you like any of these pictures, right, that I'm suggesting, anything you want. Also a bat could work, a little different orientation, but it could work. So I'm going to work on something. This is the only one that I have left. It's a small circle, but I'm going to show you the technique, and then you'll have a little more leeway because your frames are a little bit bigger and more fun maybe. So this is what you need to do this project. You need your frame, and let's talk about the components of the frame. Don't lose the components of the frame. So bad. The frame comes with, and again, yours is the rectangle shape. I'm going to work in this frame. The components are the embroidery hoop itself, which is bent wood, really pretty, right? Sometimes it's a little darker on one side than the other, so be thinking about that. The front piece and the back piece. And then the two screws, right, for this thing, right? I think there's one extra screw. I think I used one screw for that. So what we're going to be doing is creating a very small piece. I'm choosing monk's cloth. And the reason is it's very small, it's very tight, there's going to be a lot of small stitches, and it can fray, but on the sewing machine I can make it not fray. So I don't want to personally use something like linen. It's a bit nubbier, it's a bit more textured, so is burlap. Rug warp could work, but it unravels more wildly in my opinion. So for me, monk's cloth is my choice. You could also do a project like this with a needle, and then you would have a lot more options in terms of your backing. The idea is you make a small piece and you wrap it around the larger piece with glue, and it will pop inside your frame. You have to be careful about the thickness of it, right? Not hooking on the sides, or it'll never fit inside the little frame. And then both pieces go onto the backing, so the backing looks nice and clean. And then just like with a regular embroidery frame, the needle goes through the backing, and you can put either both or one of your nuts on, right? And it's going to look like this, right? This is bigger, but yours are bigger than the one I've got to work with. I'm just going to do a sample of what we're doing here. I'm going to be very careful about putting my hardware back into the bag, because obviously things like this, how easy is this to lose, right? Insanely. Oops, I already dropped one. Let me get rid of the little nut, and I'm also going to get rid of this piece, like the backing back piece. And what I've got out now are a tiny embroidery hoop, a hook, scissors, and I'm going to use a Sharpie marker. If you are using one of these, you could watch one of my videos on transfer techniques to transfer it exactly, or freehand it, or do something abstract. I'm probably going to do something in between because my frame is so small. Now, I'm going to be using this embroidery frame here, so I already cut a piece of monk's cloth that's a appropriate size for a tiny frame like this. And again, my piece is quite small. I might try to do a little star or something. I'm going to trace around my backing piece, not the larger piece, not the piece that goes on the back of the whole thing, but the piece that the fabric is going to wrap around. And I want it even smaller than that. So I'm going to come in just a little bit more. This is just a guide for me so I don't screw it up hideously. You know how I can screw things up to an incredible extent in a short time. Let's not do that. So now I'm going to open up my embroidery hoop, and I'm going to put this little guy in here, in the center, and I might go for, I think I'm going to go for the star. Let's see, because this is a small piece. So I think I'm going to try to go for the star, and I'll do something like this and see how that works. I'd prefer even an abstract piece, but I'm going to see how this looks. So now I have the choice with my pattern. I've got these two materials. Of course, you could change out your materials if you don't like these two. But I really like this chenille that you got in the advent calendar for the background. It's like a nice inky night color. And then this very fine shimmer, right, glitter sock wool in these pale colors. So I think I'm going to hook the background in the dark blue. It's always tricky to hook on an embroidery frame because we're hookers and we're used to our rug hooking frames. Some people use no frames and some people use hooks forever. So I'm going to hook the way I would normally hook with my chenille. And if it's too thin, I can double it up. For me, it's just right. And I will be back to you in a few minutes when I have this part done. All right. So I got this little star done. So small. It's so small. But guess what? For me, it's still too big. It could be that the frame squishes it in like this and that it works, but it's going to be a heck of a squish. I might have to pull out some of my edges here. We'll see how it goes. It's very small doing a small project like this, but I love the sparkle wool and I love the dark background. I might actually order another one of the larger ones so I can keep it this size because my larger one is right here. And this was the one I was wearing around my neck. You can probably see the monk's cloth in the side there, right in the edge. So this one, I remember I had to fool with it a bit to get it to be the right size. This is just an abstract. So this little guy here is not an abstract. He's a little star. So my light's not super good right now. So I'm going to see if I can whip him down to being smaller. And then my next move is to get it looking like this. Right? I realize that both nuts are actually needed. I'm going to show you that in a second. I'm going to cut him down like this, right? When I decide if I want to keep him that size or maybe make him a little bit bigger. I'm going to cut the monk's cloth down. Give yourself plenty of room. You're going to end up wrapping it around the smaller one, right? Wrapping it around the back and then cutting it and gluing the back down as you go with super glue or fabric glue, right? Because it is going to stay here forever. This is going to be a small piece. And then you're going to put your finished piece into the little frame. And you actually do need, so you wrap it around and on the back side, you're going to tuck and glue really carefully. And remember, it's going to hide under the larger piece, right? It hides under the larger piece. So while it's not perfect on the back, you can see there's a lot of glue in there. And everything is hiding under there. I got everything to hide in the end. So you're going to fasten it like this. Put it around the smaller one and then into the ring. And then you glue it and hide all your ugly ends underneath, right? So that the back looks like that. So the back looks like that. And with these little guys, what you're going to do is you're going to put on first, one of the little heads of it go on first. Hang on. You see how I put one of the nuts onto the little screw? Now I'm going to put the little screw through the hole, if I can. I'm doing this video alone. Give me a sec. Through the little hole. And now I'm going to put the second little nut on there. Where are you? Right here. And the tightness of that second little nut is really going to depend on how thick your fabric is, right? Right now, if I squeeze this in there, it's going to be super, super thick. So like I said, I'm either going to take a little row out of the perimeter or I'm going to go for a bigger one of these because I think I have more at home. Or I can wait and get a rectangle one like you've got and maybe just make it rectangular, right? Because I don't really want to take it out. I'm really happy with this star. It's very hard, at least for me, doing this very fine work because my hands are not great right now. And I actually switched to my number 4 glasses, which is crazy because it's so tiny. I don't think I've ever done a video of stuff so tiny. Just to give you an idea of the size of this guy I'm working with. Yours is larger. This is an inch, right? That's an inch across. So that's kind of crazy. For me, that's kind of crazy. That's teensy-tiny. But I also want to show you, if you're interested in making it into a necklace kind of a thing, I've got it on a chain. My sister gave me this pretty chain with all the stones. Do you see how through the top of it, right? And let me put this here for comparison. Tiny, tiny, through the top of it. And I haven't tightened this up yet because my piece isn't in there yet. So on this finished one, the piece is in here, and you see how the screw is through it. And then you see, I went to Joann's or Michael's, and I got, you see this one ring that's facing the wrong way? I put one ring on the top of that nut in the open gap here, right? So in that gap, in between there, I put this little silver, what's that called? Chain, one piece of chain. And then, well, actually it's 3 pieces of chain, but I put the one across that way. I needed an odd number, so by the time I got to the last one, it's the one that kind of faces the right way, so that, you know, 90% of the time this sits facing the right way, because I wear it as a necklace, and it's annoying when it does one of those, which it sometimes does, because this is a really large piece. This piece is actually 2 inches, so this is twice as big as this little guy. So super fun project, very small scale. And if you feel like you are more of a sewing needle person for something this small, and you want to do it as an embroidery piece, tiny embroidery piece and a tiny embroidery hoop, teeny tiny, then you could do that as well. It also would make a really cute thing for like a dollhouse or something like that. But anyway, I'm going to figure out what to do with mine, because I really don't want to take out that little star. Really happy with that little star. It's like, it's a perfectly formed little guy. And I'm even thinking about maybe putting a little face on him. I'm getting carried away, aren't I? Overdue. I will see you next time at Ribbon Candy Hooking. P.S. So best tip, right? Because I did this badly. I did my star and it didn't fit in my frame. And again, your frame is different with the advent calendar, but it doesn't fit my frame. And I can't force this much of this chenille into the frame. So the solution I came up with that works actually better is I just grabbed another frame that's going to fit in really well. So I'm going to cut around it and stitch it up and tuck it behind and all that. But I'm going to put my little guy, you can see when he's tightened up, it's going to actually be perfect in there. So an FYI, do better than I did and be thoughtful about how it fluffs out while you're hooking it, right? Because it's always bigger than you think. And I overdid it in this case. So it's a good thing I had a frame that was a little bit larger. And this one's going to work out real well. Let me see how your frames work out with your hats and cats and moons and pumpkins and all of that. I will see you next time.